Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to react to a news chopper gets distracted and then crashes on live TV. Now, this must have been just crazy for anyone viewing it from home. Because just to see a helicopter crash like that, that's just you're just sipping your coffee, you're watching the morning news, and then you witness a helicopter crash. Must just be crazy. Hopefully the pilot, and the newsreader survived. I don't know if it's likely, but yeah, hopefully they survived.
This may be the end of this thing.
Oh, he's taking off running.
Okay, now it's a foot chase.
Okay,
so
now he's jumping
Now
into
he's in
another
vehicle.
Oh,
okay.
oh,
All right, they're
oh,
closing in. Looks like
oh, oh, oh.
We don't know what has just
God.
happened right there. It looks like.
But how was the pilot not looking?
On the 27th of July 2007, police in Phoenix, Arizona attempt to pull over a stolen vehicle, a flatbed pickup truck. Before they can accost the driver, however, he puts the truck in reverse and smashes into the police cruiser before taking off. A chase ensues. As word of the chase spread to the area's many news channels, 5 of them dispatched helicopters to film the pursuit. After all, a helicopter is quite an expense for a news channel, and for all the things it can be used to film, police chases tend to attract the most viewers. Morbid curiosity overwhelms the audience, who know that sooner or later, the chase will come to a conclusion. The question is whether it'll be a peaceful resolution or a tragic one. Viewers of this chase would ultimately end up witnessing tragedy, but not at all in the manner they may have expected. Channel 15 didn't own their own helicopter, but kept one on contract from a company called US Helicopters. It was flown by 17-year veteran Craig Smith, who was accompanied by photographer Rick Krolak, who would operate the chopper's TV camera. Another of the 5 news helicopters in the air that day was owned by Channel 3. It was piloted by 20-year veteran Scott Bowerbank, and its camera was operated by photographer Jim Cox. As the 5 helicopters converged over central Phoenix, they had to request permission from air traffic control to enter the Class B airspace. Normally, this would be followed by close monitoring by air traffic control and strict adherence to their instruction to
I mean, both pilots, one has 17 years, one has 20 years of experience. Surely things like this should never happen.
Avoid collision. But, unlike most air traffic, news helicopters all tend to swarm around one location, making it difficult or impossible for air traffic control to keep an eye on all of them and anticipate possible collisions. As such, air traffic control had an agreement with the news stations that they'd be cleared for the airspace under the condition that they operate under visual flight rules, meaning each pilot was responsible for keeping an eye on the sky around them and keeping clear of other craft. This was actually a much bigger problem than you might realize. With a police helicopter already following the chase, that meant there were 6 helicopters in total following one target on the ground. The sky was crowded, to say the least, but that was only one problem. To coordinate with the other news choppers, the pilots all had a radio tuned to a common frequency over which they could announce their presence, location and movements to other pilots to avoid getting too close.
Oh, jeez. 3, I'm right over you. 15's over top of you. I'm over the top of you.
They also had a radio tuned to Phoenix's air traffic control. Nothing out of the ordinary, but Channel 15's Craig Smith and Channel 3's Scott Bowerbank.
Why couldn't there just be one helicopter that's filming this and the other networks just pay some kind of licensing fee for the same footage so that they can all stream the same footage? I know then that, there's no exclusivity then, so there's no guarantee that people will watch each channel equally, but it just seems much safer than having multiple helicopters following one car. They're all going to be in similar direction.
Bank weren't just pilots. They were reporters too. In addition to these 2 radios, they also had one tuned to the police scanner to keep updated on the chase, and another connected to the newsroom. They also had an intercom for communication with their cameramen. On top of juggling communications, they also had to keep an eye on the camera screen so they could see what the cameramen were capturing, as well as the live feed from the newsroom. This already seems like a lot for a pilot to keep track of while maintaining visuals on multiple nearby helicopters helicopters, but as reporters, Craig Smith and Scott Bowerbank also had to provide running commentary, meaning they had to
But why couldn't the camera guy provide the commentary? Why couldn't he do it?
closely pay attention to what was going on the ground, especially when the suspect left his vehicle to commandeer another one.
Hi, Scott Bowerbank up in News Chopper 3. We're following a police chase that's been going on for about the last 30 minutes here. It's this white truck, flatbed truck you see here with the tank. There's about 24 police cars from the Phoenix Police Department along with the Phoenix Firebird police helicopter following this guy. It's unknown at this point what he's wanted for. It all started about 30 minutes ago at 7th Street and McDowell. He did try to ram a police car, and we understand, well, he's pulled over right now. He's about to get out, and looks like he's starting to run. Got several units of the Phoenix Police on his tail right here. And Jim stays with it. Looks like he's going to try to take another vehicle here. We'll see if they'll block him in there. Looks like they've got him blocked in there, but he did get...
Whoa!
Scott Bowerbank's footage and commentary in Channel 3 was abruptly cut off when the Channel 15 helicopter plowed into it, with Bowerbank seemingly so transfixed on the action below that he did not see the incoming chopper. The live feed from Channel 15 was much the same as Channel 3's, save for Craig Smith's exclamation at the end, indicating he had looked up from his console just soon enough to see his impending doom, but too late to prevent it.
Now this is all northbound along Central, just south of Indian School. Now he's hitting eastbound, and he just hit some more barricades. Absolutely unbelievable. This guy doesn't care what he hits.
Again, do we know if this truck is stolen?
No, have no idea. All I know is what Firebird reported to me, that apparently the police pulled this vehicle over, and the vehicle then backed into the cruiser. There were no injuries to the police, and just simply took off, and that's how this all ensued.
And it looks like they're probably just going to let this thing...
This just seems irresponsible to have the pilot providing the commentary. It just seems really irresponsible. There should be somebody on board who's doing that job. Like the cameraman, maybe.
Parking lot. Now he stopped. We'll see what happens here. He has stopped. This may be the end of this thing.
Well, he's taking off,
he's out.
running.
Okay, now it's a foot chase.
Okay, now he's jumped into another vehicle.
Okay.
All right, they're closing in. Looks like they've...
Oh, jeez.
Oh my god.
After colliding, both helicopters plummeted to the ground in the Steel Indian School Park. Both pilots and both photographers were killed, but thankfully no one was caught in the crash on the ground. The other helicopters following the chase quickly turned their attention to the crash site. Many of these men would have known each other personally and would have communicated frequently when they were all up in the air together covering a story like this. Emotions ran high among the remaining reporters.
Turn back around and get away from this. We do have 2 helicopters down during this crash. We're not sure which helicopters they were.
Oh my God. It's Channel 3.
This is just messed up.
The suspect in the police chase was apprehended shortly after, and with news of the crash of the 2 helicopters covering the story, the Phoenix police chief mentioned the possibility of charging him with the 4 deaths. This seemed like it may have been a bit of a
That's a stretch, man. That's a stretch. How about the networks who decided to make the pilot do commentary? Where's their responsibility? Like, come on.
stretch, however, given the chaotic multitasking the pilots were obligated to perform. With so many helicopters so close by, with each pilot keeping track of so many different things, and the pilots basically required to do multiple jobs on top of piloting their craft, an accident seemed inevitable, be it in the course of covering a police chase or a house fire. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board closely examined the circumstances leading up to the crash, and it was quickly obvious how such a thing could occur. Flying under visual flight rules requires a pilot's constant attention to the sky, which is obviously not possible if the pilot is also interacting with a newsroom and providing live commentary on a ground target that they are following. This is evident by the fact the 2 pilots were distracted by the drama on the ground as the suspect hijacked another vehicle when the collision occurred. While the National Transportation Safety Board...
I really hope that there was like new rules put in place here, like reform. I hope that's what we're about to hear.
Board didn't push any legally binding requirements. It did have a number of strong recommendations, which were largely taken on board by news stations. Firstly, the pilot should focus on piloting. The duty of reporting should be separate. As such, many news stations now either make use of a co-pilot to handle commentary or just provide commentary from the newsroom. To keep aircraft getting too close, anti-collision LED lights and high visibility markings on rotor blades were recommended, as well as minimum separation distances of 200 feet vertically and 500 feet laterally. This issue has only alleviated with time, as improving technology allows cameras greater zooming for better picture quality at further distances. In Phoenix, the news stations began culling their helicopter fleets, with many stations opting to share a single helicopter and provide separate commentary from their respective newsrooms.
This just seems like common sense. They should have just done that from the get-go. Why do you need to have 5 helicopters covering one police chase?
This practice caught on around the country as stations realised competition to have the best coverage was potentially putting lives at risk.
Yeah.
And from a purely pragmatic standpoint, it was simply cheaper to share a helicopter. Looking back, it's astounding to think these measures weren't standard practice from the get-go.
Honestly.
They don't seem to amount to much more than common sense, especially when you learn how much the pilots were keeping track of on the day of the crash. It was bordering on madness, and anyone can see it was an accident waiting to happen.
Yep.
As for the suspect, of the 35 crimes he was charged with stemming from the police chase, responsibility for the helicopter crew's deaths were not among them. He pleaded guilty. Ironically, his story is far less dramatic than the one unwittingly created by the men attempting to document it, who in doing so ended up broadcasting on live television their last moments.
Crazy story. Just, for me, just like the narrator says, these things are common sense. Like the rules that the air authority recommended, which in my opinion should have been legally binding rules. It's just common sense. Like, how can you have a pilot who is relying on visuals, like to make sure they don't crash? How can you have that person also providing commentary and following a car along a highway? You know, they can't separate both eyes. Like, this is just common sense to me. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the families of those the helicopter pilots and the cameramen sue the networks, because for me, this amounts to criminal negligence. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.